What's good? What's good? Happy Saturday. Welcome to our weekend midday live stream of the Cops and Convicts podcast. I'm your host, Sean Shepard. We are streaming live on TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel, our Cops and Convicts YouTube channel, and Facebook. So please subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, hit that share button, hit that notification bell. If you like this content, please share it. You do those things and it helps the channel grow. Today, I want to take some time to talk about law enforcement training. And I hope you all can hear me, because the last time I live streamed, there was some technical difficulties with being able, with my audio. So let me go to the chat, because I also noticed that people were interacting with me and I wasn't paying you all any attention, and that's my bad. So work with me, have patience with me as I work through getting this live stream routine down pat. So I want to start with a video. I want to start with, let's go to this video. So check this out. This has to do with training.
I do traffic stops the same way each time. It doesn't matter who you are, color you are. If I do a traffic stop and kill you, yes, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm going to do an alert. I'm about what's going to be hiding, because I'm letting you know. And then on top of that, I'm letting you hear me on the outside saying, hey, do this, do that. Because people will challenge you. People will size you up. I'm 62, I can take it. I've had that tell me, I can take it. So I have to kind of transition to that. No, you don't know that. I have to transition to that dude to let him know. And then my whole demeanor is going to change. I'm not going to be that smiling, hey, sir, like, no, it ain't going to be none of that. I'm going to have to be that dude so you can kind of take in what I'm saying. But the biggest thing is, give respect.
So I wanted to share that particular video with you, and I see there's a bunch of people that have tapped in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me okay, because yesterday my audio was tripping for a little bit. I see that there's one comment. Let me see. I don't see that. Whatever, man. Anyway, so I wanted you to see that particular video, because that particular member of law enforcement is in Virginia, and he was talking about, in that one part of his clip, that he's had people size him up and say, you know what? I'm 6'4", 250, and you 6'1", 195. I can take you. And it's important that you hear that from him, because it really does explain law enforcement's training that they receive in general. I'm going to let you watch one more clip. And this is an officer. It's a deputy with LA County Sheriff Department. So check it out.
It's unfortunate if someone passes away, but you have to think about it from our point of view. If my threat is down there, he's charging at me, the best chance I have of hitting the target is center mass, and that's how we train. If I aim for his leg and aim lower, maybe aim for an arm, like all these people comments on Instagram they want us to do, the chances of me hitting that is less than 20%. And that bullet, if it misses, it might hit someone else.
Okay, so I wanted you to see that clip as well. That deputy is explaining why officers don't shoot at perceived threats at their arm or at their leg. They shoot at center mass, which is the easiest target to hit, and not taking a chance at aiming at someone's leg, because if he misses, or if the officer misses, that bullet could hit somebody else who has nothing to do with the situation. In other words, an innocent bystander. So I wanted to focus on training. And if you notice in those two clips, these officers are talking about threats. And the reason why that's important is because most of law enforcement's training that they receive focuses on tactical, self-preservation, making it home at night. Okay. And I want to start with the length of training, because that varies from agency to agency. I remember we were doing a game changer training down in San Diego, and after members of law enforcement got done talking about how long they were in the academy and how much training that they received, one of the community residents that was participating happened to be a sushi chef. And he said, "I'm amazed at how little training that you all get. As a sushi chef, I had to spend a year learning how to perfect the art of cooking rice before they ever let me touch a piece of fish. So you mean to tell me that I got more training to be a sushi chef than you get to be a member of law enforcement?" And it was a legitimate question, and it was an eye-opening question. So depending on what agency you work for, your training could be 3 months before you get a gun and a badge. It could be 5 months. It could be 8 months. It could be a year. A year is a long time. For example, part of law enforcement's training with the LA County Sheriff's Department is you go through your training, and then the first place you're assigned to typically are the jails. Hey, Kaylee. Kaylee, let me know if you can hear me. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me, because yesterday I was having some audio problems. So if you're tapped in and you're watching, just let me know in the chat if you can hear me or not. So that's their training. Every law enforcement, you can't hear me. Okay. You cannot hear me. I don't know why you can't hear me. So you cannot hear me. Let me see why you can't. Okay, so you can hear me. I think that there are people in different. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and also LinkedIn. So, Kavid, where are you watching from? I want to make sure I'm trying to get this down. Where are you watching from? What platform are you on? Kaylee can hear me. Kavid can't hear me. Chandler can hear me. Okay, Kaylee can hear me now. Okay. Okay, Kavid can hear you. Okay. Y'all had me tripping for a moment. Thank you for letting me know. So what I was talking about as far as law enforcement training is that it varies. But the truth of the matter is they don't get a whole lot of training for a number of reasons. I don't know if you've heard, but a lot of law enforcement agencies have a shortage of officers. So when you have a shortage of officers, unfortunately, they're trying to make up for that shortage and trying to get people in law enforcement as quickly as possible. I don't think that bodes well, but I'm just telling you what the situation is. So that's part of the reason why they don't get a whole lot of training from a time standpoint. But let's talk about the training that they do get. If you watch those two videos, most of their training has to do with making sure that they know how to defend themselves and keep themselves safe. If any one of you were with me right now and we went to the police academy by Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, you would hear a bunch of gunshots going off. And that's because there are officers there practicing their target practice. They're practicing how to shoot. When the truth of the matter is, they spend very little, if any, of their time during their career shooting at people, but yet that's what they practice. And most of their training is tactical, self-preservation, how to make sure that they're safe. Whether it's hand-to-hand combat, different holds, different maneuvers, firing of your gun, how to use a taser, all of these things, different restraining holds. But the truth of the matter is, as one member of law enforcement shared with me a long time ago, he said, most of our training is focused on when we're in warrior mode. He said, but the truth of the matter is, we are rarely, if ever, in warrior mode. 98% of our time spent as members of law enforcement is interacting with and communicating with you and I. You have officers that go their whole career without ever touching their gun, without ever pulling out their guns. But yet that's where most of their training is. And it's upside down. The training paradigm for members of law enforcement is upside down. I get it. You may be in a situation where you have to defend yourself. Your life may depend on it. And I've met members of law enforcement that have given accounts of how they've had to defend themselves. 3 weeks ago, if you tapped into our live stream, one of the officers that I interviewed during the Cops and Convicts podcast was in a life and death situation, self-defense, and he had to take someone's life. I can't relate to that. Most of us can't relate to that. And I would never want to be in that situation, but that is a rare situation. I sound like David Goggins. Who's David Goggins? Talk to me about who David Goggins is. Tie your shirt in a knot. Get silly. Okay, Ryan. Not that type of podcast. Anyway, I have a good friend who is the immediate past director of training and education for LAPD. After, I want to say, 14 years, she retired. And she talked about their training and how, generally speaking, their training doesn't focus on communication with us. And the irony of that is most of their job is communicating with us. They don't focus on cultural awareness. Why is that important? Because members of law enforcement are dealing with all different types of people on a daily basis. Whether they're, and this has to do with your ethnicity, what your culture is. Whether it's Latino, Muslim, Jewish, things of that nature. And not everybody, you can't communicate with everyone the same because not everyone interprets things the same way. So, for example, in Muslim households, if a member of law enforcement is called out to a residence and they need to know what the standard protocol of communication is inside that household. Like, you're not going to get very much from the woman of the house. That's not the way their culture is. A lot of cultures aren't like that. I'm sorry, a lot of cultures are like that. But you need to know that. And if you do go to someone's resident and they're not speaking to you and it's a woman, if you're a member of law enforcement, you can't take that personally or think that that's disrespectful or think that that's non-compliant. That's just their culture. And so there's a nonprofit in San Diego that created an app And the app is for members of law enforcement so that they can go to the app and refer to it before they walk into a certain household so that they understand the culture of that household before they interact with those folks. So I'm just letting you know that these are practical things that members of law enforcement need as tools because so much is put on their plate. And there are a lot of things that law enforcement shouldn't be doing. For example, one of the things that they are called to often are mental health calls. And across the board, I don't care what agency I've interacted with. And just to let you know, our program has worked with 57 different law enforcement agencies on the local, state, and federal level. And they will all say that they do not get very much mental health training. And the statistics for mental health calls are pretty bleak. They don't go well. A lot of times they don't go well. And it's because, by and large, members of law enforcement don't receive enough training to deal with folks with mental illnesses. Here, I see that the chat is going off. Okay. Make America great again. We get it. We're making America great again. Come up with something else. My gosh. We get it. Trump won. Hooray. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to talk about? Are you equipped to talk about anything else? Do you have any questions about law enforcement? Do you have any questions about law enforcement community relations? We get it. Good God, get a life, people. Jeez. Okay. Let me see. Free the diddler. All right. I'm looking at some of the comments here in the chat, and okay, Americano. No, I'm gonna put your comment up here. No, most of their jobs there should be THEIR is collecting revenue. How many police departments recover or return more stolen property than they collect from citations? They don't make much revenue for the city. Traffic stops, parking meters, those are revenue generators. Tickets, those are revenue generators. But that's not what's sustaining any law enforcement agency. You know what sustains our law enforcement agencies? Our tax dollars. So just keep that in mind for folks that are like, oh, I'm against socialism. We're a socialist country. Whether you want to admit it or not, when you go to work and they take your taxes out of your paycheck, what do you think that goes to pay for? It pays for cops. It pays for the roads to be repaired. It pays for the fire department. It's socialism. Sorry. I can't say that I care for it, but that's the truth. So I wanted to put that up there. What other questions do you have? 35 trillion. Trump weight. Enter. All right. End taxes. Allah. End taxes. Well, if we end taxes, you're going to get more money to take home in your paycheck, but your roads are going to be horrible. There won't be cops. There won't be fire departments. Elected officials don't get paid. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm glad you guys are saying stuff like this. These are things that we could all get on the same page with one another, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, whether you're to the right, to the left, or an independent. There are so many things that we all agree upon, but we don't talk about it. So if you don't want to pay taxes, how about this? Let me run this past you. How do you feel about lawsuits against law enforcement, whether it's a cop suing his or her own department or a police officer shoots and unlifes someone and the family sues the city and they get paid? How do you feel about that? I'm asking how you feel about it because your tax dollars are going towards it. yes, law enforcement agencies and city has insurance, but it's not nearly enough money to pay for all the lawsuits. So you didn't vote for this, and I didn't vote for this, but our tax dollars are used to pay for those lawsuits. And nobody's protesting about that. I don't think that anybody, whether you're a conservative or you're a liberal, wants their tax dollars going toward preventable lawsuits against law enforcement. But yet, that's where our tax dollars go. How do you feel about that? I'm an infidel. Don't worry, everything is going to be defunded. Yeah, this is why we should defund the police. The amount my city's budget that is allocated. Okay, so let me put this comment up here. This is why we should defund the police. So when you say defund the police, do you mean take all of the money out of law enforcement so that there's no law enforcement at all? Is that what you mean by defund the police? I'm an infidel. It's so weird. I obey traffic laws and haven't gotten a ticket in 45 years. Good for you. Good for you. So if the speed limit is 65, you don't go 1 mile per hour over 65. You come to a full stop at every single stop sign. When it says no turn on red, you never make a turn on red, even though the sign says no turn on red. You're never texting and driving. You're never on the phone and driving. You're full of it. You know you do one of those things. So don't come up in here and say you're the model citizen and you do everything by the book. There's no such thing, because if there were, we wouldn't need cops. We wouldn't need cops. Cops don't expect us to be perfect. They're not perfect. My last interview 2 nights ago, he was a cop with San Diego for 14 years. You know what he said? You know what he said? He said, I don't give tickets to people for things that I do. I said, well, what do you do? He said, I talk and I drive and text. I'm on the phone when I'm driving. I speed. My windows are tinted. He's just a normal human being. He's a cop. And he's sitting here saying, yeah, I break the law when I drive. So if I break the law when I drive, I know you all are, but he happens to be the type of cop that's not going to give someone a ticket that does what he does. At least he's honest. Let me see some more comments. Lottery for schools, but 40% take right off the. Yeah, the whole lottery for schools thing. I'm with you. I don't see where the lottery is helping our school system. I would love to know where that lottery money is going. Most states let you go 10, usually 12 gets you pulled over. So Allah, let me share this with you. In the state of California, don't hold me to this. Don't hold me to this. But we've had CHP officers tell us, CHP is California Highway Patrol, that they won't give you a ticket unless you're doing 90 on some stretches of road. If the speed limit is posted at 65 and you're doing 75, if you're doing 85, they're not going to bother you, especially there's a toll road that connects Irvine to San Juan Capistrano. It's a pretty empty stretch of toll road, and you can do 140 miles an hour. There's nobody out there most of the time. And you have cops off to the side waiting to catch a speeder. If you're doing less than 90, they won't bother you. I'm not giving you all advice. I'm just telling you what cops have told me. All right, let me see another comment. Okay, I pay $250 a month for insurance because of all you speed people who don't have to obey traffic laws. No, you pay $250 a month because the insurance companies have convinced our elected officials to allow us to give them free money each month. We don't say anything about it. Insurance, in my opinion, is one of the biggest scams. But since we're also divided in this country, we can't come together and say to elected officials, hey, we don't need to be paying as much insurance each month. We demand that you do something about it. But since we're so divided, we don't come together on issues like this, and we just blindly pay for car insurance every month or any other type of insurance. And it's money out of your pocket each month, and it's free money for them. They're earning interest on that. Yes, I understand that they use that money to pay for other people's claims, but you know how hard it is to get money from a claim when you get into a traffic accident. You pay money every month, and then when you try to file a claim, it's like pulling teeth. Let me look at some of these other comments. You're in Ohio. I lived in Ohio a lot for 3 years. I lived in Columbus. I coached at Ohio State. And lucky for you, you live in Ohio. Everything's cheaper in Ohio. Gas is cheaper, insurance is cheaper, everything. What's up, Apple Tree? I want to welcome everybody to the Cops and Convicts midday live stream podcast with me, Sean Shepard. If you are watching on our Cops and Convicts YouTube channel or on my personal Facebook page or on TikTok or on LinkedIn, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the share button, help our channel grow. If you like our content, check out our TikTok page and like and share what you see on our page. I'm gonna keep looking at these comments. Americano, let me put your comment up here. Traffic laws are pointless and no traffic crime is valid unless there's an injured party. The state or an officer can't be the injured party. Why do you think that, Americano? Traffic laws are pointless. So there should be no laws. If I want to drive on the opposite side of the street, I should be able to do that. I should be able to run red lights. I should be able to do 200 miles an hour. I'm just throwing these things at you since you said there should be no laws. There needs to be some laws because there's too many idiots out there that would do things that would kill people at a much higher rate than is happening right now if we didn't have laws. We have to have some guardrails. You know, we have to have some guardrails when it comes to traffic laws. It's just my personal opinion. Apple Tree, you're new to the channel. No, I'm not a cop. I'm not a cop. So let me explain to you who I am. You see this shirt? Game Changer. I run a program. It's a nonprofit organization, and it focuses on law enforcement community relations. And over the past 8 years, we have conducted moderated focus groups that bring together law enforcement and community residents on a regular basis to discuss problems and devise solutions to those problems together. Typically, it happens 3 hours before the start of a collegiate or professional sporting event, hence the name Game Changer. So the premise is we have these serious conversations in this controlled environment before a sporting event, typically at the sporting event venue. And then once we're done having those formal conversations, we then go to the game together to be in a casual environment and spend time with each other as human beings. Because the bottom line is most of us don't spend any time with law enforcement other than when we're getting stopped for something. We don't know anything about their culture. They seem to lose touch with being a normal civilian. And they've admitted this to us. So we've done this for 8 years. We've had over 1,000 members of law enforcement come through our program, and over what numbers are we at right now? We've had over 3,000 participants come through our model. We've had 170 Game Changer trainings in 10 different states and Canada. So that's what we do as Game Changer, and our TikTok channel is the original Game Changer. But Cops and Convicts is a podcast that I created as a result of spending all this time with cops and community residents during the Game Changer experience. And it just dawned on me how many people from the general public that come to Game Changer have actually spent time in prison. They're actually inmates. And if you've ever spent any time with cops and people who have spent time in prison who have broken the law, it's really strange how much they have in common in terms of their experience, their codes of behavior, like don't snitch, snitches get stitches, that type of thing. So, all right. Rodolfo wants me to dance. All right. I made a box of brownies and ate them all. Mary, you should share your brownies with people. Apple tree, traffic law has to be respected or there would be chaos. You're right. There's already enough chaos with laws. Think about how much chaos there would be without laws. Okay, Mike A. Obama doesn't care about Chicago ghetto problems. Okay, all right. Okay, Middle America. When you make comments like that, Mike, it lets me know that you barely graduated from high school. How you like that? That's what that lets me know. Lets me know that you're not very bright. And I'm just keeping it real with you. At least try to sound smart. Fake it. You know what I'm saying? Fake it. Pretend like you're smart. Apple Tree, nice work. I'm glad I scrolled to your channel. I'm glad you came, Apple Tree, and I hope you come back. Please subscribe to our channel. And if you're on TikTok, we are at the original Game Changer on TikTok. The original Game Changer on TikTok. And we've got a lot of followers on TikTok, and we have a lot of content from our Game Changer trainings and from our Cops and Convicts podcast. Okay, well, if you went to college, Mike, why don't you act like it? Stop acting stupid and saying stupid stuff. I bet you your college isn't very proud of you for the way you behave. If you went to college, act like you got some sense. Fake it. Exactly, Amish are traveling in their convenience as we all have the right to do. Listen, I just wanted to talk to you guys about the type of training that cops get and don't get. And there's a lot more that can be done on the part of our elected officials. See, part of the problem is cops have too many responsibilities. There's a lot of things that they're called to do that they shouldn't be responding to. You have dispatchers. We talk with dispatchers. We talk with cops all the time. And there's not every 911 call deserves a police response. You understand what I'm saying? Just because you call 911 doesn't mean that a cop should show up. We've heard stories of people calling 911 because their pizza was cold. People like Mike. People like Mike who say stupid things. You would probably call 911 because your pizza was cold when it arrived to you. You want to come on here and play with me, Mike? I'll play with you, Mike. I'll hurt your feelings. You won't like it. But I'm just saying, we have a lot of people in our society that have personal issues. Not everything requires a police response. And mental health calls, unless you have somebody having a mental health episode out in public and they're posing a danger to themselves and to the public that's around them, law enforcement shouldn't necessarily be called to a mental health call. They don't have the training for it. And far too often, the mental health person gets shot by police. It happens all the time. Okay, Alpha. I agree. Stop criminals, not grandma when she forgets to use her. Yeah. Let me tell you a story, Americano. I'm glad you brought that up. Let me share a story with you from an officer in San Diego. I won't tell you what the agency is. He's a Latino officer, and he was sharing with us how racial profiling exists in law enforcement. So he's in his car, out of uniform, driving on a road, and there's a curve in the road. Not a chance to make a right or a left. It's just a curve in the road. So the road curves to the left. He drives to the left. Cop gets behind him and pulls him over. pulls him over, comes up to the car. And again, this is a racial profiling story told by a Latino cop. And the cop that pulled him over was from his department, and it was a white cop. And the Latino officer doesn't reveal that he's an officer right away. Cop comes up to his window. He says, "Why'd you pull me over?" And the cop said, "Failure to signal." And the Latino cop says, "Failure to signal what? There is a curve in the road." So the cop is starting to get belligerent with him. Like, you failed to signal. I want your driver's license, your proof of insurance, this, that, and the other thing. And that's when he had to flex and say, "Look, I'm an officer in this department. Let me get my badge so I can show it to you." So he shows him his badge. They're from the same department. And the Latino officer asked the white cop, "Okay, so what is this? What is this about? What did you pull me over for?" Cop didn't have a good answer for him. Started hemming and hawing. "What did you pull me over for?" "Failure to signal. You and I both know that that's a crock of crap." Hearing that from law enforcement, from a member of law enforcement, lets a lot of people know that they're not imagining things, that these things happen and they happen frequently, and it's illegal. It's illegal. So I'm just sharing with you. Listen, you guys can try and shoot the messenger all you want. If you don't like what I'm saying, then you didn't like what the cop said. I'm not a cop. Never been a cop. Never going to be a cop. I'm giving you accounts of what members of law enforcement have said to us during our game changer training events. I've met with over 1,000 cops. I've listened to 1,000 cops. If you go to our TikTok channel or to our Instagram channel, the original Game Changer, you'll see and hear what the cops have to say for themselves. You don't have to take my word for it. And if you don't like what they're saying, that's a whole different story. But I'm not here doing this live stream to make stuff up. I'm here passing on the truth to you, and you can do what you want with it. Donald Trump and God gave all police officers absolute immunity from prosecution. We're not there yet. And I don't think that that's actually going to happen. You can't have immunity for illegal behavior. So I understand what you're saying. People are concerned about that. People are concerned about the amount of power and authority that police have without Donald Trump. Let's not pretend like just because Donald Trump has shown up into the American society that now all of a sudden law enforcement and community residents don't get along, because that's far from the case. So we can't blame Donald Trump for that. Qualified immunity ends when rights are violated. Americano, I'm with you. The qualified. I'm going to put this comment up by Americano. Qualified immunity is an issue, and what I like to tell people is, if you don't like the way law enforcement in your town does things, you can look no further than city council or your county board of supervisors, because you have to keep in mind that when they sign a contract with the law enforcement agency, they're signing off on their use of force policy and a number of different things. So we like to blame law enforcement for their behavior, and I get it. We should, when the behavior is out of bounds, when it's illegal. But I also need you all to recognize that it's not just law enforcement, it's the elected officials that allow for a lot of law enforcement's behavior. So let me give you an example. We've all heard the term indictment, right? Indictment. Well, in most cities, the district attorney has the unilateral authority to decide whether someone gets indicted or not. And when I say someone, I mean inside of law enforcement or outside of law enforcement. And the problem that I have with that level of power, especially when it comes to deciding whether someone inside of law enforcement gets indicted, is The DA's office, like here in Los Angeles County, the DA's office works with all 88 law enforcement agencies when it comes to prosecuting potential criminals. The DA's office works with those agencies intimately and closely. It's too close of a relationship for the DA to then say, oh, this officer is accused of doing this. I'm looking to look at this evidence. I'm not going to indict. I have a problem with that. I also have a problem with law enforcement investigating themselves. Internal investigations. The analogy that I like to use is if there are parents on this stream right now, if you came home and your 11 and your 12-year-old were home by themselves and you came home and the lamp was broken and you say, who broke this lamp? And your 11 and 12-year-old say, well, let us investigate and we'll get back to you. Right? We'll get back to you about how this lamp was broken and who broke it. And then they get back to you 2 months later and they say, after our investigation, we have concluded that no one was at fault for breaking this lamp. That's law enforcement investigations in a nutshell. And if there are members of law enforcement on the stream, you know what I'm saying is true. I think that, especially when it comes to officer-involved shootings, that a third party, whether it's the federal government, DOJ, they come in and investigate and determine whether or not someone's going to get indicted or not the local DA. Not the local DA. Let me see. Texas Repo. I see some other comments. Internal Affairs, in most cases, and finds no wrong, little to file appeals. The appellate courts are the only thing that DAs are afraid of. Okay, Americano. I'm going to put this comment up. Check out Americano's statement on Internal Affairs investigate. Internal Affairs investigates themselves in most cases and finds no wrongdoing. Learn to file appeals. The appellate courts are the only things that DAs are afraid of. Okay, Americano. Back the blue until it happens to you. I like that. I like that, Americano. I like that a lot. Back the blue until it happens to you. It's funny. It's an interesting slogan until you talk to the officers themselves about backing the blue, because not everybody backs the blue, even though they say they back the blue. What do I mean by that? People weren't backing the blue on January 6th, were they? They weren't backing the blue then. And we're at a point in our nation's history where this is the most diverse our law enforcement has been in our nation's history. What do I mean by that? Well, for a couple hundred years, the only person that could be a member of law enforcement was a white male. If you were female, if you were a person of color, you weren't allowed to be a cop. Did you know that? Did anybody know that? I'm not making it up. This isn't fake news. All you have to do is go research it. I mean, that's the way this country was, man. I mean, it is what it is. And we've had cops talk about being in uniform, in their blue uniform, being disparaged by members of the community and called racial slurs in their uniform. Does that sound like backing the blue to you? Doesn't sound like it to me. Or is it back the blue only if you look a certain way? Now, I might be hurting somebody's feelings, but I don't care. It's the truth. And this is coming from the cops. I'm sharing with you what the cops have told us. I just did a live stream yesterday on bias calls. I could summarize what bias calls are for you and let you decide whether or not that's backing the blue. So So Real TV, welcome. Thank you for tapping into this live stream. You're watching the Cops and Convicts podcast live stream with me, Sean Shepard. Um, Thank you for tapping in on a Saturday afternoon. If you haven't subscribed to any of our channels, we are the original Game Changer on TikTok. We have a lot of content on TikTok. We're the original Game Changer on Instagram. There's also a Cops and Convicts channel on Instagram. Hit that notification bell. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tapping in. So let me share with you. Blue line flag is gang colors and a violation of U.S. flag code. Got you. I hear you. So let me share with you what bias calls are. If you go to our YouTube channel and go to the live section, you'll see the live stream that I did yesterday. And I'll tell you what bias calls are. And this was a term shared with us by the former police chief in Coronado. And his name is John Fruman, but he's no longer the chief there. So he said this to us during a Game Changer event back in, I want to say 2017. And he said in Coronado, he's in a position where he has to respond to every single call. The mayor expects it, and the people who elected the mayor expect it. And if you don't know, Coronado, California is very affluent, it's very white. And so this chief shared with us what bias calls were. And we said, well, what's a bias call? A bias call goes something like this. 911 caller calls 911. Operator answers. 911, can I help you? Caller says, there's a black guy on my street. And the dispatcher says, okay. And the caller says, that's it. There's a black guy on my street. And I don't feel comfortable. Send an officer. That's a bias call. Years later, that's called a Karen call. And again, I'm going to remind you, this is the chief of police telling us this. It's not me. So if you could imagine, a lot of people in the room that day were not happy with this chief saying that his department not only fields these calls, but he responds to these calls. So send a cruiser to make sure that this person isn't doing anything. And we're like, well, why would you appease some person who's got personal problems or is a bigot at best or a racist at worst? Why would you appease that person and send a cop car to go check on somebody who's walking down the street? It's his constitutional right to walk down the street. And he said, I'm under tremendous political pressure to respond to those types of calls, even though we know that they're BS. And he said most of the time, a seasoned officer will just circle the corner, not even stop to talk to the person, but they still responded. Sometimes they'll interact. But we've had dispatchers share that, we will tell that person we don't respond to those calls. Even if it's in department policy to respond to those calls, the dispatchers will go against department policy because they're sickened with this person. But then the person is smart enough to call back 911 and say, well, now he's looking into cars. Well, now they have to respond. Even though they know that it's most likely BS, they'll respond to those calls. Because the person was smart enough to say, oh, they blew me off when I said there's a person on my street that I don't like. Now they're looking into cars. So I shared this with officers in future Game Changer events and asked them, like, does this take place? And they all just nonchalantly were just like, yeah, man, of course it takes place. But let me give you the kicker. And that's when the officers shared that when an officer of color responds to that bias call, the caller will call 911 back and say, You sent out a black officer or a Latino officer. I don't want a black or Latino officer. I want a white officer. This is coming directly from the cops saying that this takes place. And we've had cops who are partners of black or Latino cops, white cops, tell the caller to their face, if the race of the officer means something to you, then you don't need a cop. You don't need a cop. And these are the same people who claim to back the blue. Who is it? It was Americano said, back the blue unless it's you. I like that. I like that, Americano, because there's truth to it. Listen, the truth of the matter is, I don't like bad cops. Period. I don't like bad cops. I like good cops. And a lot of you will say, well, if the good cops are not telling on the bad cops, that they're bad cops too. I get the logic. It's not that simple. It's not that simple because they work for a profession and they work in an environment where there are penalties for going against the grain and doing the right thing. Sorry, that's the truth. You all inherently know it. A lot of people who get into law enforcement get into it for the right reasons. They get into the profession. They get into the culture and realize this isn't me. I'm not this type of person, but I'm going to keep my head down, do the best job that I can. I need this paycheck. I support my family with this paycheck. And if I speak out by myself, there are repercussions. And there are. And cops have told us that there are. And part of the reason that that's still the place is because people like you and I, we don't back the good cops. We don't give them the support that they need to do the right thing. There's safety in numbers. You're not going to have one cop trying to do the right thing in an agency that has 7,000 cops. They'll chew you up and spit you out. And you won't have a job, and there's nothing you can do about it. I feel like America has the worst history ever. Let me see. Let's go through some of these comments. American history is very dark and sad. People did suffer. Just voice they had wrong skin color. We humans are very shallow. I agree. We have a lot of. We should look more in the mirror at what the truth is. And listen, there's a lot of people who say, if you don't like it, leave. That's not what the Declaration of Independence says, or any of the other documents that were written. We're trying to form a more perfect union. You know what that means? That's an admission that the union isn't perfect. So if it's imperfect, if you want to leave due to its imperfections, then please do. Get out. But if you want to make this country better, that's what that phrase means. We're striving toward a more perfect union. And in order to do that, you got to look at the things that you're doing wrong, admit that you're doing them wrong, and collectively come together and try and correct the mistakes. Try and correct the things that are out of place. We don't do that. We don't like to look in the mirror as Americans and say, you know what, we did this wrong. We don't like to do that. And for the people who don't like to do that, you're probably part of the problem. I don't have any problem looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? I got some work to do on myself. Here's another comment. I haven't even read this one. When you have a history of violence, you are lumped into the group like an ex-con trying to get a job. We live in a violent society, and we always have. I think we can all agree to that. And I'm not just talking about school shootings. I'm talking about violence every day. I'm not just talking about Chicago for you people who always want to point to Chicago. Oh, Chicago's violent. This country is violent. It's not just Chicago. It's not just black people in Chicago that are violent. Sorry. Go down south and look at how violent it is. Or the Midwest. We live in a violent country. And until we do something about it, we're going to remain violent. This country was violent from day one, and it's violent today. So stop fronting like it's not violent everywhere in this country. You know, we always see a sleepy town. We never would have thought something like this would happen here. Well, it happened there because we're violent. That's who we are as a nation. Is who we are. I didn't make the rules. I'm just reporting back what I see. And you guys see it too. Let me see some other comments. Percentage of bad cops is very low. It is below 0.1%, but they get the news coverage. Apple Tree, I got news for you. The bad people always get all the attention. They make the loudest noise. They talk the loudest. They scream the loudest. They're the most organized. Most of us, I don't know if your percentages are correct, but I get your point. I want you to look at it this way. If you look at American society, there's 300 and something million people in this country. Most of them don't vote, whatever. But we have, let's just say 320 million people in this country. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 95% of the people in this country don't want no problems, don't cause any problems. Obey the law for the most part. When I say for the most part, I'm not talking about speeding. I speed every day. I'm not talking about traffic violations. I'm talking about armed robbery, unlifing people, raping people. I'm talking about hardcore criminals. Most of us aren't that. And yet the laws that we have set up are to address that small group of people, making all the problems in your community and mine. Newsflash for people who think that Chicago is just a horrible place. There's a small percentage of people in Chicago causing all the problems in Chicago. There's a small percentage of people in Mississippi, someplace in Biloxi, causing all the problems in that community. That's how human nature is. That's what it is. They don't have the police for the 98% of us. They have the police for the 2% that are stealing from you, that are robbing you blind, that are committing mass shootings. That's what the cops are for. Cops ain't for me. They're probably not for you. You probably go about your business. You don't break any laws. You ain't trying to hurt anybody. It's the same thing with law enforcement, Apple Tree. If you look at any agency, the cops in that agency that are causing problems inside that agency, that are terrorizing people in their community, is the 2% in that department, not the 98%. And I have a problem with the fact that the 98% don't get rid of the 2%. I'm with you there. The majority of us that want peace, that want to live in harmony, we need to be doing a better job of fighting against the 2%. There's more of us than there are of them. When you agree? when you agree with that? Apple Tree with some good comments. I hold media responsible. They give shutters and criminals all coverage. Media almost glorifies everything negative. That is just, I agree. The media does they play a huge role in what we see, who they want to demonize and who they don't want to demonize. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. When you see on the news the latest black person that has been shot by the police, and there's this uproar in the black community, white cop shoots black person. We see that over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? And, the expression, say their names, say their names. You know whose names I want to hear? I want to hear the names of the white people that have been shot by cops. And I say that with this asterisk. In this country, more people are shot and unlifed by cops, more white people are than any other demographic. And part of it has to do with numbers. There are more white people in this country than any other demographic. But what I'm saying to you is Donald Trump said this when he was president. And he said it on ABC News. I have the clip. I don't have it with me now, but he said it on TV when a woman asked him, how do you feel about blacks being shot by police? And he said, well, oh, what a horrible question to ask. More white people are shot by police. And he was telling the truth. It's true. It's statistically true. The DOJ will tell you this. All law enforcement agencies know this, that more white people are shot by cops than any other demographic. And to Appletree's point about media, why don't we see it? Why don't we see those stories? How come I only know the names of Mike Brown and Eric Gardner and Tamir Rice and Sandra Bland? How come I only know the black people who've been shot by the cops? How come I don't know about the white people who've been shot by the cops? Why doesn't the media show us that? I'm just asking the question. Why don't we see that? If that is the truth, which it is, that the police shoot and unlife more white people than any other demographic, why doesn't the media show us that? I'm asking you. I'm telling you the facts. Those are the facts. Those are the numbers. And yet I couldn't tell you the name of one white person that's been shot by the cops and unlifed over the past 10 years, except for, what's her face? Ashley Babbitt, who was breaking and entering into the Capitol. She got unlifed. And I said her name. One. And that was a historical event. A historical event in our nation's history had to happen for me to know the name of one. Think about what I just said. Think about what I just said. Dark Owl, you're a 3%er. Explain to me what a 3%er is. Murtada. Real question is, why are police shooting people? That's a heavy question. Here's my answer. Here are the national statistics. Every year, between 1,000 and 1,500 people are unlifed by law enforcement each year. Nationwide, between 1,000 and 1,500. Nationwide every year, on a very violent year, cops are shot and unlifed by criminals. And there's about 60 nationwide. And that's a high number annually. So think about what I just said. I think our elected officials have made a calculated, shrewd decision that if only 1,500 people tops each year are being unlifed by police officers, that's just the cost of doing business and keeping the constituents that pay us and donate to our campaign funds and donate to our law enforcement foundations. That's a small price to pay. That's what I come up with. I just told you that there's 320 million people in this country. And if police are only unlifing 1,200 people each year, that is a statistically insignificant number for any member, any elected official, or any group of politicians. That's nothing. As long as it ain't my kid that you're unlifing. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So Murtada, when you ask why the question, it's just the cost of doing business. If that's what it takes to keep you safe, then go ahead on and do what you have to do. And then we'll give you qualified immunity will protect you. Don't worry about it. Less than 1% of officers involved in officer-involved shootings nationwide, less than 1% are ever indicted. Less than 1%. So either they're the perfect profession and they're doing everything right, or there's something wrong with the system. There's something wrong with the system. I'll just answer that question for you. Lena says, because they can't control their fear. Bertada says, the truth is always ugly. I personally don't believe in killing anyone. I don't either. It's ugly being human sometimes. I did a live stream on TikTok this morning, walking my dog. And I ran into this girl with her dog. And do you realize that dogs treat each other better than humans treat each other? You know, you ever get into an elevator? You get into an elevator, you step onto an elevator with 7 other people in it, and no one says hello to you. No one makes eye contact with you. You get in the elevator and you ride up to the 30th floor, and no one says a word to you. If you put 7 dogs into an elevator, they'll interact. They'll all greet each other. They may not all get along, but at least they'll acknowledge each other's presence in the elevator. Humans don't do that. There's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with us. All right, Tech 4. Here's Tech 4's comment. You would unlife someone that kills your family. Don't be stupid. Who's being stupid, Tech 4? Nobody said anything about that. You the one coming on here being stupid. Who said that? And what made you say that? Nobody said anything about unlifing somebody's family. What are you talking about, dude? You know, what are you talking about? Explain yourself. Are you able to explain yourself? I'll give you an opportunity. Nobody said anything about that. Nobody said anything about self-defense. I own a gun. And I'm going to keep it real. I never purchased a gun until Trump was elected in 2016. Never had a gun in my life. Got it for home protection. And the work that I do, I could very easily get a conceal and carry permit in Los Angeles. I've had cops tell me to go get one, and that they'll walk me to the sheriff's department. They'll help me go get it. But I haven't done it. I don't want to carry a gun on me out in public because I don't want to have to use it. If you come in my home, different story. Different story. Tech, I said personally, at least the dogs in the elevator won't be Hitler. Okay. All right, Texas. You do, you know, for you people who bring up Hitler, you do realize that you do realize who Hitler was, don't you? Hitler wasn't some scary Latino coming across the border or some scary black guy. Hitler was a European just like you. That's who Hitler was. Remember that. Y'all seem to forget that. Seem to forget that. If you want to bring up Hitler, I'll talk about Hitler with you. Just be prepared to talk about Hitler if you're going to bring him up. People have issues. What's up, bro? Jamin, LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Concealed appears when you're pulled over. Don't get it, or you may be subject yourself to unsafe traffic stops. Americano. That's a great point. I think the brother's name was Philando Castile. He was legally carrying a gun when he got pulled over, and he told the cop that he had the gun and he had a permit. And when the cop asked him to reach and get his permit, when he reached to get his permit, the cop shot him anyway. And he died. And that's how I know that that guy exists. I don't carry my gun with me in my car. I could. If you keep your gun locked and unloaded in your car in the trunk, that's legally carrying your weapon. I don't know how good that's, I don't know what good that's going to do you if you actually need to use it. If somebody's assaulting you, you're not going to say, time out. let me go to the back of my car in the trunk, unlock the gun case, put the clip in the gun. I mean, it doesn't work that way. That's not self-defense. It's not self-defense. Democrats call Trump Hitler. Talk about it. Okay, Texas repo, since you want to go there. JD Vance called him that. Next. If you're going to come in here and be stupid, I'll just ignore you. But we just got done talking about looking in the mirror, and that the mirror is not just a place that you look in the morning while you're brushing your teeth and making sure that your hair's okay and that you don't have boogers in your nose. The mirror is a place that you look at yourself in your own eyes and be honest with yourself. And it's obvious to me that you've never done that. And that's the problem with our country. No, that's the problem with the world. Most people have never done that. And I'm not here to talk about Democrats and Republicans. So if you want to be stupid and think that there's actually two different groups of people, that's fine. But if you want to talk about the truth, I'm happy to do that. I'm not here to talk about Democrats and Republicans. Go to wherever you go to get your fake information. Go ahead on and do that. But if you're going to come on this channel, which I welcome you to do, have some sense. Please communicate with me like you did more than graduate from high school, just barely. And I'm not getting on people who stopped their education at high school. I'm getting on people who stopped their education at high school, and you're stupid. I don't like stupid people. You know, like Trump says he doesn't like veterans who got caught. I don't like stupid people. I'll be the first to admit it. Okay, so why are all good people Second Amendment? I don't know what that question means. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. You can't hide from the truth. Democrats, Republicans are the divider, enforce policies. Allah, you're right. You're right. I like that. Democrats, Republicans are the divider to enforce policies. I just don't get into all the Democrat, Republican stuff because the truth of the matter is the only them and us that exist is them, the politicians, and us who aren't. They got the best healthcare. Them, the people that you like or dislike. If you spend your whole life talking about the left or the right, the left and the right have the same healthcare that you and I don't have access to. That's them, and then there's us. But you're too stupid to see that. You're too stupid to see it. I want the healthcare that they got, and the they that I'm talking about is the Democrats and the Republicans. How come we don't have that healthcare? Stop looking at the them and us as right and left and black and white. It's the people in power and the people who aren't in power. And everybody that's on this stream right now are the people who are not in power. And they got us arguing amongst ourselves. Meanwhile, they pass policies that protect them. Did you ever vote for a politician to receive benefits and healthcare for the rest of their lives if they win an election? Did you vote for that? No, I didn't vote for it either. How'd they get it? They decided it for themselves. So, Texas guy, wake the hell up and stop being so freaking stupid. That's the them. We're the us. And you can't see it. Get out of your little homogenous bubble, spend time with people who eat different food from you, and you'll realize, oh, he is like me, or she is like me. It is them. The them is the people creating laws that we didn't have any say in. They're the ones who decide for us to go to war. We don't decide that. They do. Will you wake up? Wake up. Who is David Goggins? Who is this guy? Who is this guy, David Goggins? Please tell me who David Goggins is. Tell me who David Goggins is. I'm blind. Yes, DEI. Texas dude, you are dumb AF. You're dumb AF. The job is too best to beat you out of your benefits. Yes. Yeah, their job. They, them, politicians, not us. Who is David Goggins? Tell me who David Goggins is. Education is so important. I would invest everything in educational system. Apple Tree. Yeah, well, they want to take the Department of Education away. So good luck on that. Can anybody tell me who David Goggins is? You guys gonna make me Google him? Oh, the Navy SEAL. Is he the motivational guy? Black dude, bald head? Texas guy isn't crazy. He just lost. There are two types of lost. Let me explain to you what the two types of lost are. You're ever in your car and you know you're lost and you pull over and get some help? That's the best kind of lost to be. You're aware of the fact that you're lost. The worst type of lost to be is you have no idea that you're lost and you keep driving around aimlessly. That's the worst type of lost to be. I know where I'm going. No, you don't. You lost the AF. You're lost and you don't know you're lost. Mr. Texas Repo, you're the worst type of lost because you don't know you're lost. I respect people who are self-aware and say, you know what? This doesn't look right. I'm going to pull over and get some instructions. I'm going to get some directions. Because at some point in our lives, we're all lost. Don't stay lost. Pull over and get some directions, but you have to realize you're lost first. Sorry to hear you're homeless, Texas. Since you're all about the Republicans, they don't care about homeless people. Next. But if I'm going to keep it real, none of the politicians are spending any time about dealing with homelessness. The mayor here in LA she ran on that platform. The homelessness here in LA is intense. And think about what it takes to be homeless. It just so happens that I spent 8 years working with the homeless population. You know what the things that the homeless people have in common? Mostly, most of them have a drug problem, and then they have a felony. And you know what it's like in this country. If you have a felony, you can do your time and you still have that scarlet letter to wear on your chest the rest of your life. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. On job applications, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Well, if I served my time, why are you asking me that? If I paid my debt to society, if I stole from some casino and I did 3 years, but it's a felony, why 8 years later are you still asking me, have I ever had a felony? So a lot of homeless people have felonies on their records and have a drug problem. And we all claim to love our veterans. There's a lot of homeless veterans out there. Should there be such thing as a homeless veteran? I don't think so. But there's plenty of them. Anyway, bad stuff. Nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about who? The homeless? Yeah, they don't. No, let Repo stay here. Let Texas Republic, whatever he is, let him stay here. All he's doing is showing his ass to everybody. Whatever. He's got nothing else better to do. That's what I like about people like Texas Repo. You've got nothing else better to do in your life than get in on this live stream and do what? Throw up all over yourself? Good for you, bro. Quality life you're living. He's frustrated. All homeless got crime problems and drug issues. Not all, just 95% though. Yeah, listen, there are people who are homeless and they don't have a drug problem. They just don't want the responsibility. Now, they're a minority. There's very few of them, but I had an 8-year program called Embrace the Streets in San Diego. 2 days a week, I organized college students to come down on Tuesdays and Thursdays and bring clothing, blankets, socks. Socks are a big thing that homeless need because their feet are jacked up. They need clean socks. and we brought food. I did that for 8 years, 2 days a week. Then I met this dude. His name was Jimmy. Had a motorcycle, white guy, loved him. Spent a lot of time with him. I actually spent a night in the street with him. I had 3 college students spend the night in the street where Jimmy was staying on the street in San Diego. And he told me when I first met him, he said, I just don't want the responsibility. I don't want an apartment. I don't want insurance. I don't want any of that. And I was fascinated by that. It was his choice. And then he would get mad when it rained. He would get mad when it rained. He would curse God when it rained. I'm like, Jimmy, it rains. You're the one who chooses to be out here homeless. You can't get mad when it rains. You want to be out here. And he's like, I know, I just hate it when it rains. Okay, man. I even introduced that dude to my mom. Good guy, really good guy. You know, if you take the time to spend with people, you won't notice that they're not the same color as you. He's just a human being. And I spent time with him. He spent time with me. And I like the guy. But unless you try it, you're always going to dislike people that you know nothing about. Thank you, St. Helens. It poured. Well, yeah, it poured sometimes when he was out in the rain. Homeless people don't like it when it rains. I'm sure you can appreciate that. Or when it's cold, like this is the worst time of year to be homeless. Even here in Los Angeles, in Southern California, where it's warm year round, it gets cold. You know, that concrete is cold. And I'll tell you, the 2 nights that I spent living with I shouldn't say living. The 2 nights that I spent sleeping on the street with the homeless, I didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep at all. I didn't feel safe. Your body is always kind of tense because you're out in the elements the entire time. So if you see somebody who's passed out on the street, I don't mean passed out from drug use or alcohol use. I mean sleeping like they don't have a care in the world. Just know that they have gone through a lot mentally to be able to feel that comfortable to sleep on the street and not be worried about who comes up to them and lights them on fire. That was happening in San Diego. Somebody was going around lighting homeless people on fire. You have to go through a lot mentally to be able to sleep and feel comfortable enough to be in deep sleep on the street. Imagine a country with free housing, free healthcare, free education. Would it be possible to have? Not this country. Not this country. Not this country. Allah, when you talk about communists, you do know that we have socialism in this country. You know, your tax dollars go to pay for public works, public services like cops and police. I'm sorry, firefighters and elected officials. We pay. So there is no such thing as a purely capitalist society, or else your tax dollars wouldn't go to support anybody else's jobs or their pay. It doesn't serve the elite. Who did you vote for? Why do you care? Why do you care who I voted for? Let me put it to you this way. I started voting in 1992. And except for 2 times, my only choices were white males. And in our nation's history, anytime you voted for a president, you were voting for one white male or another white male. So think about it that way if you're going to ask me who I voted for. Who'd you vote for? You know? I mean, think about it. In our nation's history, every day when it came to voting for who you wanted as president, it was like eating a box of cornflakes every single day of your life. You had this box of cornflakes or that box of cornflakes to choose from. No Fruity Pebbles and cornflakes. No Count Chocula and cornflakes. It was just straight up cornflakes to choose from. Which box of cornflakes do you like better? Which box of cornflakes did you like better? Inappropriate laughter. Black people always doing the most. What would you know about it? What do you know about black people? What do you know about white people? How much time do you spend around people different from you? That's the question to ask. How much time do you spend around people different from you? How much time do you spend around people at work that are different from you? When you go and socialize that are different from you? When you go home to your own neighborhood, who's living around you? Do you live in some bubble or do you live around different people? Do you try different foods? Do you listen to different music? Or is it cornflakes for you every single day of your life? And then you're afraid of the Fruit Loops. You're afraid to try a different cereal. I'm just asking the question. I voted because they were black. Okay, what reason is that to vote? Just because they're black, you wanted something different? Okay, I can go along with that. I can get that. It's like voting for a woman. We've had the men do it over and over and over again from day one. Let somebody else get a crack at it. They can't do any worse. I get that. I'll go along with that. Inappropriate. I'll go along with that. Let's try something different. Other countries have. Why are we so afraid to? Why is there so much fear in this country? Why? What are we afraid of? What you saying inappropriate? Type out what you say. Type out what you mean. Type it all out, and I'll put it up for everybody to see. Explain to me what you mean. I vote for justice. I don't know what type of language that is, but I vote for justice too. This is crazy. St. Helens, you like that? I vote for policies. Okay. I vote for people who I think have good judgment. That's what I vote for. Do you have good judgment? Because that's what you're ultimately hoping that they have. Because once you elect somebody, that's where your voting power ends. You don't get to vote on what they do once they're in office. So you got to hope that they have good judgment. You got to cross your fingers and hope that they have good judgment. It's not about the policies, because how many times do politicians say that they're going to do something and they don't do it? All the time. Am I right? Fear is Satan. This is an empire run on diabolical principles. Aren't all empires run on diabolical principles, and it's about staying in power? Okay, I'm looking for inappropriate to explain herself. Political candidates and government officials are all cut from the same multicolored cloth. Amen, Americano. That's why they all have great health care and we don't. How much do you trust your judgment? My judgment? Now that I'm older, I trust my judgment better. St. Helens. When I was young, did you trust your judgment when you were 19 and had a couple of beers? Or worse? I don't trust my judgment. Depends on so much. Gavin, how much do you trust your judgment? Inappropriate. Did you reply? Ask that question. Yes, oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. I'm not going to keep typing because this goofball can't figure out how to scroll up on. Okay. If I'm a goofball, what does that make you? You sitting here talking with me. If I'm the goofball, I want to get to the bottom of what you were trying to say. There's a lot of things scrolling. So I'm asking you one more time to tell me what you're trying to say. Okay, I'm going to scroll up. Did you vote for Kamala because she's a person of color? No, that's not why I voted for Kamala. That's not why I vote for people in general, because they're a person of color. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna share this with you since you guys are interested in who I voted for. Hang on, I'm looking for the back of my earring. I don't know what I did with it. Okay, so when Hillary Clinton decided to run in 2016, I was ready to vote for a woman. And I've been saying it for years that men have done enough to our society, not just American society, but to world society. Men have done enough. Let's try a woman on for size. And I was ready to support Hillary Clinton. And then I listened to her talk. I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. And then I listened to her talk compared to what Barack Obama was saying. And I saw two different people with two different levels of intelligence and empathy. And I was ready to vote for the female. I couldn't vote for her. And it wasn't because she was female. She just wasn't as good as him. And she's not a good campaigner. I don't think that she'd be a horrible president. I just don't think that she's a good campaigner. She doesn't present herself very well. And when she does tell the truth, it's not good what comes out of her mouth. I quickly learned why people don't like her. Whether you're a conservative person or there are people who are progressives that don't like her. I wanted to vote for her. She didn't get my vote. I wanted to vote for her. So you asked me the question, I'm answering it. St. Helens, I'm glad you decided to subscribe. Like, I don't need you to agree with everything that I'm saying, but we can have a conversation. We can have dialogue. If you have something authentic to offer and it's truthful and it's coming from the heart, I'll listen to you. I want to hear you. I want to hear what anybody has to say. But if you come on here and you're like, hey, man, take off your shirt and dude, go away. Go away. I'm not going to take off my shirt. You know, take off my shirt for what? I don't trust in those system mechanisms anymore. Me too. Me too. As I said, you misunderstood something. He actually has brains and knows how to use it. My man, you're a quick thinker. I subscribe. Okay. I don't trust in Obama was a really bad president with perfect speeches. Okay. Why was Obama so bad? Now remember, this is the Cops and Convicts podcast. I'm glad that we're having this conversation that is completely has nothing to do with what I was talking about to begin with, and we've been live streaming for 90 minutes. Why do you think that he was bad? He was a really bad president with perfect speeches. Why was he so bad? What was so bad about President Obama? Why was he so bad for you? I'll wait for you to answer because I'm interested. I'm interested in hearing why you think he was so bad. Obama didn't do nothing for people. Everyone was expecting him to do something. Okay, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. There are some people who don't know that Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act are the same thing. Let me share this with you, since I have a feeling I'm going to educate some people. In President Obama's first term, like Donald Trump's first term in 2016, and like his first term right now, the first half of his term, President Obama was the Democratic president, and he had a Democratic Senate, and he had a Democratic House, which means Democrats had full control of Congress. And you know what he did with his full control of Congress? He tried to pass universal health care that benefited everyone. And he called it the Affordable Care Act. And conservatives called it Obamacare. And they were demonizing it. And he finally said, you know what? It is Obamacare because Obama cares. When he had full control, he tried to get health care affordable for everyone. Was it the best first swing? No, but think about the first car that was ever built. Would you want to drive the first car that was ever built now? That thing that you had to freaking crank up and it drove 10 miles an hour. You want to drive that car? Or do you want to drive a modern car? So the first crack at anything that was that brand new is not going to be great, but as time goes by, it matures and you hope that it improves. That's what he did with full control of Congress. When Trump had full control of Congress during the first half of his only term, when Republicans controlled the Senate and the House, and Trump was the president, you know what he did with all that power? He changed the tax code for rich people. Look it up. Don't believe me. Look up what I'm saying to you. When two different people had the power to do whatever they wanted to do, one chose to get health care for everybody, and the other one changed the tax code. And you just told me that Obama did nothing. You can't say that Trump didn't do anything because he did too. They had different priorities. And that's the truth. If you don't like what I'm saying, look it up yourself. It's true. I'm not here lying to you. I'm not here lying to you. 2 thumbs only. How do you like those 2 thumbs? No, I'm not going to cry. She asked a question. Obviously, you just jumped in midstream. But a lot of people speak and they don't know what they're talking about. Most are so indoctrinated, they lack the ability to be an unbiased observer and make a fact-based decision about anything and listen to what others tell them is true. Right. You know, I have a pastor. I'm Christian, like I'm a real Christian, like I read the Bible and try and live by what's in the Bible. I believe in gay rights because they're people. If you want to do that with your life, go do it with your life. Just don't push it on me. That's how I feel about all people. You want to do something, as long as you ain't breaking the law, knock yourself out. But I had a pastor tell all of us, he said, if you don't like what I'm saying here up in this pulpit, go check what I'm saying against the Bible. And if you disagree with the Bible, that's a whole different conversation. But what I'm saying is based on the Bible. I didn't say this, my pastor said it. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to do just that. I'm not going to listen exactly. I'm not going to take what you say as gospel, pun intended. I'm going to go look and check the Bible against what you're saying. And all I'm saying to you is, if you don't believe what I just said about Obama when he had control of the House and the Senate, and Trump when he had control of the House and the Senate, go look it up for yourself. And another thing I'll point out to you, when Trump had full control of the House and the Senate, he did nothing to solve the border. Nothing. Look it up. Look it up. I'm not lying. I'm not making it up. Look it up. If the border was so important to him, why didn't he fix it when he had full control to do whatever he wanted to do? Full control. Why didn't he do it? Ask him. Or did he have concepts of a plan instead of a plan? I just listen to what people say and then I look at what they do. And if they don't match up, I ain't got time for you. If I tell you I love you and I punch you in the face, do I really love you? Pay attention to what people do, not what they say. The Healthcare Act had to drop mine because of triple. Yeah, Americano, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right about the healthcare prices continuing to go up. Think about what they'd be if there was no Affordable Care Act. He ain't in office anymore. Healthcare sucks in this country. Not just the price, the experience, all of it. You go to the office and you wait for an hour and a half to, I don't know what your healthcare process is. The best people, rich people have great healthcare. Rich people have great healthcare. It costs, but they can afford it. Health insurance costs. And the older you get, the more you're at risk to being sick and your premiums are going to go up. The country sucks. when it comes to that. So I'm paying for health insurance. Remember, we were having this insurance conversation. I'm giving you free money every month, and I'm healthy. You know, I go to the doctor once a year for an annual physical. I take good care of myself. I don't get sick generally. I got COVID. A lot of people got COVID, but generally speaking, thank God I don't break bones. I don't have these health situations where I'm constantly seeing the doctor. I am the healthcare system's favorite type of person. I just pay them and I never file a claim. And I give money away every month. Free. What do they do with my money? It sucks. So when you talk about healthcare, it is not just the price, it's the care you actually get. And they don't know what they're doing half the time. You have people who have like severe illnesses. The doctor's like, we don't know what this is. So what am I paying for? I came here for you to tell me what it is and how we can fix it. They don't do that. You actually don't need a doctor nowadays. They're lining their pockets. Absolutely. They're lining their pockets. You could get in a car accident tomorrow. Knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen. By the way, I'm not American. I am watching this with no dog in the fight. Apple tree. We should pick our dog along the way based on what the dog is saying and doing, not based on what group the dog belongs to. I don't really have a dog in the fight either. When it comes down to it, I just want somebody who's going to act on behalf of the American people and do what's best for all the American people, not just the rich people, not just any certain group of people, but I mean, there's 300 plus million people in this country. What are our politicians doing to make life better for us and not just who said that they're lining their pockets? Boulder, Tabby said they're lining their pockets. You're right. Do you know that your average politician in the House or the Senate, you know how they supplement their incomes? Not just by speaking engagements, but they get on boards of directors. I have friends that have worked on Capitol Hill. And you could be a board member for like Barnes and Noble, and they'll pay you $25,000 for the year to attend one meeting. And you're on that board because of your title. You're on that board because you are the Secretary of Education's fill in the blank, or you're the Secretary of the Interior. Because of your title, you get to be on boards, and they pay you a lot of money to be on their board. And, you know, like my guy said, you get on a couple, 3 or 4 boards that only require you to be at one board meeting a year. And it could be like here, like virtually, that's $100,000 extra that you're making for attending one meeting a year. So when people win elections, the money chases you. When you win an election. That's why people are so hungry to become a member of the House or a senator. The money chases after you once you win that election. And as I shared, you get free healthcare for the rest of your life, and the best healthcare, and you get a pension. All right, I've been on here for 90 minutes. Well, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to make my yoga class, man. I want to go get a hot yoga class in. Just to remind you guys, this is the Cops and Convicts live stream podcast. I think next week I'm going to be interviewing a cop, or I may be interviewing somebody who's an ex-inmate. I'm not sure. Check out the channel. You'll see a lot of the interviews and clips that we have. So we're streaming on TikTok, my Facebook page, LinkedIn, and the Cops and Convicts YouTube channel. If you liked your experience today, please share your whatever platform you're on, share it with people. I had a good time talking to you guys and responding to your comments. I'm not a cop. I've never been a cop. If you want to look up what I do, what I've done, and why I'm quote unquote qualified to talk about law enforcement, community relations, I'm going to put in the chat. Visit our website. It's Game Changer. Hang on. GameChanger1.org. Let me see if that went out. Yeah. Visit our website and you can look at what we do, how we do it. We got plenty of videos. We have plenty of real words from real people, whether they're cops or they're inmates, about their experience and what it's like to be inside of law enforcement, what some of the pros and cons of law enforcement are. If you want to hear it straight from the cops and not from me, if you want to hear it straight from people who have served time and not from me, I'm not speculating. I'm just a conduit. If you want to hear real talk from real cops about what it's like to be in that profession, and you're unbiased, and you don't care what color the cop is or what gender the cop is, listen to them, because you're not going to hear this on Fox, MSNBC, or CNN. You're not going to hear the cops telling the truth. I make them sign a waiver, and they forget the cameras are on. The waiver is for us to record them. If somebody wants to say something, if it's on their heart or on their mind that bad, they're going to say it. So if you want to hear that stuff, please follow us. I just got out of DOC in April, Department of Corrections. Take care, y'all. Hey, Apple Tree, tap in anytime. Boulder, you guys, thank you for tapping in with us. I had a great time talking with you. I hope you guys didn't mind me being a little bit rough with the people who came in here talking stupid. I don't like stupid. You can have an opinion, but just don't be stupid. All right. Hit that notification bell so that you know when I'm coming on again and who my guests are. Peace out. Be good. Have a good Saturday. Have a good weekend.